human, animal, or plant health, safety, and environment, or protection of unfair trade practices, or national security, declare that certain goods and services must conform to certain Mauritius standards. Legitimate interests can justify restriction on trade. For example, Mauritius can impose a restriction that any vehicle, any equipment, any machinery that is imported into Mauritius must not emit a certain amount of carbon in order to protect the environment. In reality, Mr. Speaker, sir, there is always a fine line between what amounts to protection of a legitimate interest and what amounts to an unjustified non-tariff barrier to trade. And if a member state feels that the technical standards are not legitimate, there is a WTO dispute settlement resolution to resolve matters. So, Mr. Speaker, sir, it is crucial for any person wishing to export any product to Mauritius to know exactly what are the current standards, what are the technical requirements, and conformity assessment, because if they fail to meet those standards, they will not be able to export their products to Mauritius. To help ensure that this information is readily available in an easy-to-access manner, Article 10 of the TBT agreement of the WTO requires that all member states ensure that there is an inquiry point. An inquiry point which will exist which will be able to answer all reasonable queries from member states and interested parties, as well as to provide relevant documents about any technical regulation standards that are in force or that is proposed to be adopted. So this is why it is very important that Mauritius have what is called the inquiry point to meet our obligation under Article 10 of the TBT agreement. We don't have any qualms about this. However, Mr. Speaker, sir, on this side of the House, we have strong exception for the inquiry point to be the Mauritius Standards Bureau as presently constituted. And I'll explain why. The MSB, the Mauritius Standards Bureau, is governed by an act of 1993. Section 7 of this act provides, and I quote, "There shall be a chief executive officer of the Bureau who shall be known as the director and be appointed by the Council with the approval of the Minister." Subsection B, subsection 2. "The director shall be responsible for the execution of the policy of the Council and for the control and management of the day-to-day business of the Bureau." So the law requires that MSB appoint a director who will be the chief executive officer, and it is this chief executive officer who is responsible for the execution of policy of the Council. This is a requirement of law. But today, Mr. Speaker, sir, there is no director. There is no chief executive officer. There is no one legally responsible for executing policy of Council. Why? There has been PQs in this House. Honorable Lobin asked a PQ in 2020, and we found out that since 2012 to 2020, there was an officer, Ms. Rashida Nana, who was acting director. She had 30 years experience. She was acting director since 2012 with 30 years experience. 2020, after the general election, instead of confirming her and appointing her as director, what did government do? Government requested the Council to appoint Ms. Boiga, former MSM PPS, as director. The council refused. Council refused. I understand that there was a legal opinion sought, and the council received a legal opinion to the effect that Ms. Boiga, unfortunately, does not have the required qualification to be director. The Honourable Minister can confirm whether my information is correct or not. So, Mrs. Boiga cannot be appointed as director because she doesn't have the qualification. So what does this government do? Does it appoint Ms. Nana, who is acting director with 30 years' experience? No. Does they appoint someone else with relevant experience? No. They change the council. The council who refused to appoint Ms. Boiga is changed. They appoint a new president, a new petit copain, and then this council has to consider whether to appoint,
Mr. Speaker, sir, I'd like to seek your advice. The honourable member is mentioning the name of a member who's not part of the parliament. So I'm just seeking your advice whether it's acceptable or not. Thank you. Let me listen to his ruling. I'm seeking for his advice. Thank you.
How many rulings? How many rulings? It is a point of order. It is a point of order, but you may have different opinion, but it is a point of order. If not, I would have said to honourable member, it is not a point of order. It is a point of order, but you may continue.
So, the government changed the council. And this council appoint this lady, the former MSM PPS, not as director, because I understand there's a legal opinion saying that she can't be appointed as director, but as general manager. Now, I have perused the Act, the Mauritius Standards Bureau Act 1993. Nowhere in the Act is there mention of a general manager. It doesn't exist. It doesn't exist. It is totally illegal. The CEO must be a director. The CEO cannot be a general manager. The general manager does not have any role, any responsibility, and yet today we have the MSB, which is run by a general manager, illegally because there is no director appointed. And obviously, Mrs. Nana resigned. And now, today, the Honourable Minister is asking the opposition, is asking government members, MPs, to vote a law which will give more powers to MSB when he knows perfectly well that the MSB is operating without a director in total illegality. How can we do that? And now, the legitimate question we have to ask ourselves. We've heard the Honourable Minister talk about MSB doing great things. Is it the case? Is he today in a position to tell the House that he himself, his ministry, is happy with the way MSB is being run? I'm asking it because I don't know how many honourable members in this House receive anonymous letters criticizing MSB. My mailbox is inundated with letters questioning the way it is run, mismanagement. And I have to say, I'm extremely disappointed, Mr. Speaker, sir, because I was expecting the Honourable Minister, at least in his intervention, to refer to the memo which his ministry, under the hand of the Permanent Secretary, wrote on the 30th September 2022, 1.5 months ago, a memo sent to the chairperson of the Standard Council and the general manager. I'm sure the Honourable Minister knows about this letter. This letter, and I want him to respond to this letter. This letter, Mr. Speaker, sir, is the ministry telling the MSB that we conducted 2 audits. One audit was done by an external auditor, Mauritius, and the second audit was done by the internal members of MSB. And we, the ministry, are in the presence of these 2 reports. And these reports are damning against MSB. And yet not a word from the Honourable Minister of Industry as to this report, which his own PS wrote. Now, what was said in that report?
Honourable Member, I've been listening to you so far. So would you mind just come nearer to the amendments?
Yes, Mr. Speaker, sir, the amendment is we're giving a lot of powers to MSB. The Honourable Minister has spoken about the capabilities of the MSB. So I am challenging what the Minister has said, and I'm saying that the MSB today, as presently constituted, does not have the competence to carry all these new powers and functions that is being given to MSB. And to support my argument, I'm relying on an audit that has been carried out, which criticizes. So I'm just referring to the audit so that members who have not had the benefit of reading that report knows what is going on today in the MSB. And then, after hearing this, they can decide whether they feel that MSB needs to be given even more powers and responsibility, despite the criticism of the report. I won't be long. I'm just going to cite only 3 extracts of the report. And then I will
This is much better presentation. Now, carry on.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir. So, both the report, Mauritius and International Inquiry, refer to the lack of staffing, the delay in delivering of services, and not enough nutrition conducted tests. The report stated that 1/3 of subcontractors' test reports could not be provided. 1/3 of tests carried out by MSB, which were subcontracted, could not be provided to the auditors. The external audit criticized the fact that MSB had recourse to subcontracting for testing activities on such a large scale. The audit report addressed the issue of Quality Beverages Limited bottled drinking water, and I quote, found out that there was an unacceptable delay between the visit and the issue of the report, as well as delay in doing the test, which may be attributed to the lack of human resource. But more damning, perhaps, Mr. Speaker, sir, both reports stated that officers are frustrated, this is the word used, officers are frustrated due to the merger of laboratories and working in a non-conducive environment. Officers are frustrated and working in a non-conducive environment, and you want us, Mr. Speaker, we want the House to give more powers and responsibilities to MSB? The PS, the Permanent Secretary of the Ministry, concluded saying this office views this matter with concern. It's not you, team, it's not the MMM, it's not the opposition saying it. The PS of your ministry write to MSB and say that we view the situation with concern. 1.5 months later, the managing director is still in post, no sanction is taken, no action is taken, and the Honourable Minister comes to this House and brags about the performance and competence of MSB when his own ministry is saying that they are looking at this matter with concern. Be honest with us. Tell us, are you satisfied with the performance of the general manager? Are you satisfied with the way MSB is run today? And if you're not, then please remove the general manager and appoint a director in substantive capacity with the necessary competence. Mr. Speaker, sir, before concluding, I would like to make 2 additional observations on the bill. First, I note that as was the case with the Mauritius Food Standard Agency bill, I note the same obsession for ministers to control everything. The same mainmise of the ministry over the council. According to the proposed amendment, the minister now will appoint 2 additional members on the council from the private sector. Previously, it was the Mauritius Employees Federation who had 1 representative. Now he won't have any representative. Business Mauritius will not have any representative. The minister will appoint 2 members from private sector. which means effectively that the minister will appoint the chairman, 2 members from private sector, 3 members from consumer organization. That's 6 out of 12 members. And if you add his representative, it means 7 out of 12. He can have a quorum and he can take whatever decision he wants because he controls the council. C'est ce qu'on appelle, Monsieur le Président, politisation à outrance. And the other amendment, pursuant to the new amendment, the Honourable Minister will be the one who will decide solely what fees and remuneration would be paid to council members. So he will be controlling the purse, and yet this MSB is supposed to be independent. The final observation which I wish to make is in relation to Section 27 of the bill, which repeals and replaces Section 31 of the MSB Act. According to this new provision, Mr. Speaker, sir, it will now be a criminal offense. It will be a criminal offense for any member or employee to disclose any matter which come to his knowledge in discharge of his function under the Act. He will now be sentenced to 1 year imprisonment. So if after coming into force of this bill, an officer of MSB discloses to the press or send it anonymously to members of parliament that there is a damning report on MSB highlighting cases of gross misconduct and toxic working environment, that person, that whistleblower, would be potentially liable to 1 year imprisonment. We condemn such provision, which aims at punishing whistleblowers. The government is more concerned about shooting the messenger and silencing whistleblower rather than taking steps to improve governance and transparency. To conclude, Mr. Speaker, sir, we agree that we need to have an inquiry point to meet our commitment under the WTO BT agreement. But until we have an MSB digne de ce nom with a competent director, we would request that the focal point, which is currently the Ministry of International, responsible for international trade, remain the inquiring point. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Mr. Speaker, sir, thank you for giving me the opportunity to intervene on the Mauritius Standards Bureau Amendment Bill. Actually, the MSB Act dates back to 1993, and I'm given to understand that it has not been revisited ever since, except for minor amendments brought to it by the Finance Bill. It was about time for it to be reviewed in order to adapt to the constantly changing environment, and most importantly, to keep pace with international norms to ensure that safe and quality products compliant with required standards are available on the market. Mr. Speaker, sir, at the heart of the Sustainable Development Goals of the United Nations rests the need to address societal disparities while achieving equitable economic growth through sustainable development. The United Nations has declared 14th October as the World Standard Day in recognition of the important role played by standards in our everyday life. In fact, standards plays a key role in nearly all aspects of life. By 2030, it is expected that standards would be uniformized at the global level to strengthen societies through trade, thus making countries more resilient and equitable. Mr. Speaker, sir, after 2 decades of liberalization reforms, Mauritius has been transformed into an almost duty-free economy. Its openness to trade has been one of the main reasons behind its economic success. This government further aims at transforming the island into a recognized trading platform by optimizing its trade policies. As we move towards a global economy, standardization issues continue to grow more complex. They are critical to the survival and prosperity of companies trading internationally. As more international trade agreements are implemented, domestic manufacturers will face growing competition from international concerns. The World Trade Organization Agreement on Technical Barriers to Trade, which includes the Code of Good Practice for the preparation, adoption, and application of standards, recognizes the important contribution of international standard and conformity assessment system to improve the efficiency of production and facilitate international trade. For instance, what may be barrier to trade by one country may well be a legitimate measure by another country. Therefore, developing international standards which can be used by all member states of the World Trade Organization in order to facilitate trade globally is more than ever required. Mr. Speaker, sir, over the years, the standardization and conformity assessment environments have evolved, and there is a need for the Mauritius Standards Bureau to move forward with a new strategic orientation in consonance with the rapidly evolving socio-economic development of Mauritius. It is essential that the MSP Act be amended to align its provisions with international norms in order to facilitate trade of our local industries on the regional and international market. This bill will certainly provide operators and the country with more opportunities in economic cooperation, trade in goods and services. This bill will also facilitate harmonization with our trading partners and tackle the non-tariff impediments. It will further reduce delays in custom clearance. The provision of this bill will therefore align Mauritius with the Article 10 of the WTO regarding entry point to facilitate business and economic operators in a more efficient and effective way. This bill, Mr. Speaker, sir, will also ensure that products entering the country is rigorously tested for consumers' safety and well-being. Let me come to some main features of the MSP Amendment Bill. Mr. Speaker, sir, the bill provides for the Bureau to act pursuant to technical barriers to trade agreement, Article 10 of the World Trade Organization, as the entry point for Mauritius with the objective of answering reasonable inquiries from other member states to the agreement, including on any adopted or proposed technical regulations, standards, and conformity assessment procedures. Mr. Speaker, sir, sometimes it can be very time-consuming and costly for individuals and companies to learn about the TBT requirements for different products, as well as getting relevant information on regulation and policies. The technical barrier to trade agreement ensures transparency and is an important pillar in its implementation, the setting up of the national entry points. The setting up of the the inquiry point, which I welcome, will assist in handling WTO notifications, respond to inquiries, provide relevant information and documents, and serve to connect private sector trade officials, standard officials, regulators, and any other domestic and international stakeholders in all matters relating to the implementation of the transparency provisions of the TBT. This will also enhance the harmonization of information, documents, and restriction in place by acting as a one-stop shop for information sharing among member states. By establishing an efficient and responsive inquiry point, it will accelerate compliance with trade procedures. As an incentive to serve the stakeholders, the inquiry points will provide economic operators with the opportunity to review and comment on notifications which can affect their trade interests. It will also help in promoting information exchange, regulatory cooperation and predictability, and reduce potential trade frictions. It will ensure reasonable inquiries on any technical national and international regulations adopted or proposed, or any conformity assessment procedures, and will help economic operators gain advanced knowledge on new technical regulations, conformity procedures that are envisaged. The conduct of inspection activities will help the local industries to export to the African continent through the AFCFTA, and thus ensuring that products meet African Organization for Standard. Also, that will be allowed for export through the inspection scheme at MSB. Also, unlocking the capacity of industries to meet continental demand. To note, also has undertaken standards development activities and has harmonized around 1,469 standards. This will also benefit operators to facilitate businesses with other countries that Mauritius has signed trade agreement with, that is the European Union, India, China, Pakistan, Turkey, and the UK. It will provide for the formalization of activities already undertaken by the Mauritius Standards Bureau, such as the formulation of the Mauritian standards, metrology and calibration. Empowers the Mauritius Standards Bureau to conduct other activities, such as testing, certification, and inspection, and provide conformity assessment services, which shall include, but not limited to, visual inspection, testing, verification of certificates of conformity, or test reports. New definitions of terminologies have been aligned with updated definition of International Organization for Standardization. The bill will further provide the essential underpinnings to the economic operators to improve their productivity, enhance the quality of their products and services, thus sharpening their competitiveness in the global market, and leverage on standardization and conformity assessment to unlock new markets, encourage fair and sustainable trade, protect consumers, and protect sustainable development. New trends and developments have emerged in the standardization landscape, and fundamental changes have been witnessed in the economic and social fabric of the country. It is to be noted that the bill will address the challenges, notably the emergence of non-tariff measures as obstacle to trade, more particularly non-harmonized standard, conflicting technical regulation, and discriminatory conformity assessment procedures. Secondly, the advent of the African continental free trade to promote free trade in the African Union and other trade agreements, as I mentioned earlier. Thirdly, the accelerated integration of Mauritius in the global economy. Fourthly, e-commerce barriers, and therefore provide an opportunity to accelerate the e-commerce business in Mauritius. Fifth, facilitate trade for our SMEs. Six, improve food security by expediting the import procedures. With the globalization of the world trade, the local industry has to become increasingly competitive for its survival, and at the same time, it is important to ensure that the local market provides quality and safe products to the consumers. To ensure competitiveness, quality, and safety, compliance to international standards, backed by world-recognized conformity assessment, the bill will be able to meet the exigencies of the evolving business environment. Mr. Speaker, sir, the MSP has an important role in the implementation of legislation on standard in as much as it is this institution that ensures that relevant standards pertaining to the different goods are duly respected. Both by Ministry and the Mauritius Standards Bureau contribute significantly to the achievement of the 17 SDGs, but with a direct impact on SDG 12, that is to ensure sustainable consumption and production, SDG 3, good health and well-being, SDG 2, zero hunger, and SDG 1, no poverty. With digitalization, climate change, stress on the supply chain, the global economy is at a crossroad, and this entails a review of our mode of operation at all levels. It is worth highlighting that the mission of my ministry involves facilitating trade and goods and services, ensuring regular supply of essential commodities, and to monitor prices of controlled goods, promoting and safeguarding the interests and the rights of the consumers through legal and institutional framework, and regulating weight and measures used in trade. Through the formulation of standard, referencing standard in regulation, conformity assessment activities, provision of calibration services through maintenance of primary standard, the Bureau fully impacts on the deliverables of my ministry. Mr. Speaker, sir, officers of my ministry and those of the MSP work in close collaboration to ensure that the standards enforced in Mauritius are applied for all relevant products. For example, the existing legislation provides that importers have to submit certificates of conformity that are verified by the MSP. But what in cases of non-availability of the certificate of conformity? Samples are therefore taken by officers of my ministry and sent to the MSP to be tested for compliance. Similarly, whilst the Mauritius Standards Bureau is responsible for scientific and industrial metrology, the legal metrology services of my ministry is responsible for legal metrology. Legal metrology ensures fair trade practices and maintain a competitive marketplace. It also encourages manufacturers, distributors, and retailers to follow good manufacturing and distribution practice. The legal metrology services issues certificate of conformity for weighing and measuring instruments, which are internationally recognized through accreditation and compliance to international standard. Mr. Speaker, sir, it is apposite here to point out that Mauritius is a corresponding member of the International Organization of Legal Metrology, which enables economies to put in place effective legal metrology infrastructure that are mutually compatible and internationally recognized, hence establishing mutual confidence and harmonizing level of consumer protection worldwide. These affiliations have so far helped the legal metrology services of my ministry to apply international standards, thus achieving the aim of once measured, accepted everywhere. Therefore, I welcome the amendment at clause 23, which will henceforth include a système international d'unité. This will act as a center for scientific and technical collaboration between member states, allowing for international comparison and coordinating the global measurement system, ensuring comparability and international recognition of measurement results. Measurement standards and measurement traceability is vital for any country for trade across the globe. Mr. Speaker, sir, in conclusion, according to the Trade Policy Review 2021 of the World Trade Organization, the reforms undertaken by Mauritius since 2014 has helped to diversify the economy. The report commended Mauritius for its long-lasting support to the multilateral trading system, for meeting most of its WTO notification obligations. This bill bears, therefore, the testimony of this government's determination to uplift the Mauritius Standards Bureau to align it with international norms. For this bill, the MSB will ensure that international standards such as ISO and IEC, amongst others, are used and implemented in Mauritius so as to be able to be in line with the World Trade Organization agreement on technical barriers to trade, thus facilitating trade both within the region and worldwide. Let me take this opportunity to congratulate my colleague, the Honorable Minister of Industrial Development, SMEs and Cooperative, for his initiative to amend the MSP Act, which was long overdue, so as to adapt it to the evolving socio-economic development in Mauritius. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir.
Honorable Leopold.
Mr. Speaker, sir, I now move for the adjournment of the debate.
Seconded? Seconded. The question is that the debate be now adjourned. Those in favor say aye, those against say no. Aye. Ayes have it. Debate adjourned.
Mr. Speaker, I now move for the adjournment of the Assembly to Friday, 25th November at 4 p.m.
Seconded? Seconded. The question is that the House be adjourned to 25th November 2022 at 4 p.m. Those in favor say aye, those against say no. Aye. The ayes have it. The House stands adjourned. Adjournment matter. Christophe.
Merci, Monsieur le Président. Ma requête de ce soir s'adresse au ministre des Transports terrestres et renvoie à un point que j'ai soulevé à l'ajournement des travaux parlementaires le 30 juillet 2021, soit plus d'un an de cela, à savoir le problème de congestion routière dans les morcellements de Pointe-aux-Sables, qui sont devenus des zones de passage quotidien, non seulement pour les habitants locaux, mais également pour des centaines d'automobilistes venant d'autres régions. Il y a une quinzaine de jours, certains habitants ont refermé un raccourci qui n'en était officiellement pas un, car il avait été ouvert clandestinement, je le reconnais, par d'autres habitants plusieurs années auparavant pour raccorder la venue des peupliers directement au morcellement Le Printemps. Si ce shortcut présentait un avantage d'accès routier, il était aussi devenu une source de nuisances et d'accidents au fil des années. Or, dans ma requête du 30 juillet 2021, j'avais suggéré une solution à ce problème, à savoir le raccordement routier du rond-point se trouvant au bout de l'avenue des Peupliers au morcellement Sagittaire. Je demanderai donc à l'un des ministres présents de bien vouloir transmettre au ministre de tutelle ma demande pour savoir où en est ce dossier auprès de la Traffic Management and Road Safety Unit.
Mr. Speaker, sir?
Yes, please.
May I? Yes, thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir. I've taken note of the matter raised by the honourable member, and same will be conveyed to the responsible minister. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir. My request tonight is addressed to the Honourable Minister of National Infrastructure and Community Development. Let me first of all thank him for the project which is currently being carried out by the ODA in the constituency number 9. I am talking of the upgrading of Constance Bridge along B117 road at Saint-Rémy, which is a very important project as this will realign the road, thus eliminating the sharp bend, and also the road will be widened. However, as I say, bizena desor pour Metrology. So actually the project is causing major traffic jam, though I must admit that there are some traffic control measures which have been implemented. But with the approach of the festive season, there will be more traffic and the peak time will last for longer period. So my request is that during this festive period, to have a special traffic control system, and as myself and my two colleagues, Honorable Balgobin and Honorable Modu, we are very much concerned with this project. So I will request if the Honorable Minister can arrange for a site visit, and we can find out alternative routes and temporary measures so that the traffic will be more fluid during the festive season. Thank you.
Mr. Speaker, sir, I wish to thank the Honourable Member who gave me advance notice to the effect that he will raise this adjournment matter, so I came well prepared. With a view to enabling the contractor to proceed with the works, as he himself said, it is a very a busy place. The closure of the Constance Lake Road B117 at the level of the bridge, the full closure was required. In this context, consultations were held with relevant stakeholders, TMISU, the police, the Flag District Council, the ODA. The closure of the bridge as well as the traffic diversion plan was subsequently approved and implemented. And at the request of my colleagues themselves, the Honourable Member, Honourable Balgobin, Honourable Madhu, and the ODA promptly addressed the situation in collaboration with the police and the TMISU. And as he rightly said, with the coming up of the festive season, we agreed, no doubt, there will be quite some heavy traffic in that region. And, but also, I think you will agree that the traffic flow in that region has now greatly improved. The situation, nonetheless, is being monitored closely, and I'm pleased to inform that in view of the coming of festive season, as from this month, the contractor is providing police assistance from 7 in the morning to 7 p.m. to further control the traffic. In addition, the RDA has been requested to ensure close follow-up with the contractor so as there is no delay in the implementation schedule. And I'll invite my honorable friend and my two other colleagues that will, at some point in time, will effectuate a surprise site visit to make sure that things are happening as they have promised. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir.
Mr. Speaker, sir, tonight my request is addressed to the Honourable Minister of Commerce and Consumer Protection. All Mauritian consumers unanimously feel that the retail price of mogas and gas oil is excessively high in Mauritius as compared to the global retail price. One Mauritian consumer, namely Mr. Nishal Joyram, has started a hunger strike near the Children's Court. His appeal to this government is simple: to reduce the price of both mogas and gas oil. A reduction in the price of mogas and gas oil is awaited impatiently, Honourable Minister, by the whole population. Like the whole population, I have reason to believe that prompt actions will be taken.
Honourable Member, I'm talking. I am on my feet. I am on my feet. You're talking about policy matters, you see. Policy matters, so adjournment matter, okay? So next, who is?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My request is addressed to the Vice Prime Minister, Minister of Local Government and Disaster Risk Management. It concerns Morselma Pinewood, Mr. Speaker. Over there are green spaces that ought to be maintained by the Municipal Council of Aquaphoenix, but from a picture that I've just communicated to the Honourable Vice Prime Minister, those green spaces have never been maintained by the Municipal Council of Aquaphoenix, and this is causing severe inconvenience to the inhabitants of this region. If the Honourable Vice Prime Minister could use his good office to request the Municipal Council of Aquaphoenix to do the needful and have those green spaces maintained so that the inhabitants do not have to write several letters again of complaints to the Municipal Council of Aquaphoenix. I thank you.
Yes, Mr. Speaker, sir. You know about this problem, Mr. Speaker, sir. The problem is that some of the new Morselma that's coming, a lot of land are being left to the municipal council to deal with that. That's the issue. I've discussed that with the municipal council before, and they told me because of lack of manpower and all that, they didn't manage to clean it. But anyway, I'll have a word with them again. Thank you.
Madame Tour.
Monsieur le Président, ma requête s'adresse au vice-premier ministre, ministre des collectivités locales, concernant le terrain synthétique de foot à Caroline-Vallée-des-Prêtres. Les jeunes attendent impatiemment que les travaux soient complétés, que les terrains soient clôturés afin d'éviter que les chiens errants y ont accès. Je demanderai donc à l'honorable Dr Osnou de bien vouloir voir auprès de la municipalité de Port-Louis qu'ils activent les travaux afin que les jeunes puissent pratiquer le sport favori.
Yes, Mr. Speaker, sir. I'm aware of this problem, and I think I'm being told that there'll be a meeting in 2 days' time by the Municipal Council of Port Louis to look into this matter. So I'll try to follow this issue.
Thank you, Mr. the Speaker. I have an issue which concerns the Minister of Energy and Public Utilities. I wish to draw to the attention of the Honourable Minister of the serious disruption in water supply in the region of Mayberg and Bovalo. I'm also told that some houses have not been provided with water for the past 48 hours, last 48 hours. Now, may I also inform the Honourable Minister that the availability of water tankers is not sufficient enough to cover those regions. So may I press upon the Honourable Minister to kindly look into the matter. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir. I thank the Honourable Member for raising this important issue at adjournment time. In fact, Mr. Speaker, sir, we are already in the dry season in the country. So at the level of the CWA, they are doing their utmost to supply consumers with water all around the island. So I'll see to it that the consumers in that specific region be provided with adequate water supply by water tankers as from tomorrow. Thank you.
Merci, Monsieur le Président. Ma requête ce soir s'adresse au Premier ministre adjoint, ministre des Terres et Logements, ministre du Tourisme, l'honorable Steven Obigadou. Cela concerne l'hôtel de ville de l'hôtel Europa. Nous accueillons avec joie l'acquisition de l'hôtel. Et au nom des habitants et des opérateurs économiques, nous remercions le Premier ministre et le Premier ministre adjoint pour cela. Mais l'hôtel Europa est dans un état délabré qui sert de refuge pour les toxicomanes et d'autres gens louches. Et cela cause beaucoup de problèmes aux habitants, les piétons, les élèves qui passent devant l'hôtel. Je demanderai au Premier ministre adjoint s'il peut faire le nécessaire à travers son ministère pour la démolition de cet hôtel. Je vous remercie, Monsieur le Président.
Mr. Speaker, I thank the honourable gentleman. I think his views are shared by all the inhabitants of Kilpip in this House. The state of Europa building in Kilpip for many, many, many years has been a blot on the landscape of the town of Kilpip. I believe since my student days, it's been in such a state, and it is really shameful that this situation has lasted throughout the years. It is with a matter of immense relief and satisfaction as an inhabitant of Kilpip, I can say that we have finally been able to acquire that land. The state has been able to acquire that land, and we are now, as we progress with the master plan, upcoming master plan for the redevelopment of Kilpip Town Centre, we are progressing in discussions as to what will be done on this site, whether it should be part of the Kilpip urban terminal or whether it will be put to alternative use. So as soon as possible, as soon as we have determined the future plans for the Europa building, it will be pulled down, Mr. Speaker, sir. This is now no longer a matter of years, but a matter of weeks and months. Certainly. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable Boulel is rejoicing. Opposite his house.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The issue I'm raising tonight is addressed to the Honorable Prime Minister, and my attention has been drawn to the effect of long delays in the issuance of Mauritian passport by the Passport and Immigration Office. Normally, Mr. Speaker, it takes 4 working days to get a new passport or to renew an existing passport. And recently, it has not been the case. It's taking much more than 4 days, sometimes weeks, to get a new passport or to renew existing one. And this is causing some trouble for people who are traveling and who have had to renew their passport. So I don't know whether this is a question of a shortage of new passport or what is the exact reason. So therefore, I would kindly ask the Honourable Prime Minister if he can look into the matter and remedy to the situation. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, since the Prime Minister is not here, I shall respond. I'm not aware of the situation. I shall convey the message to the Prime Minister. But of course, if there are any particular cases which are very urgent, please let us know, and we shall try our utmost to help.
Merci, Monsieur le Président. Ma requête s'adresse aussi à l'honorable Premier ministre et concerne le manque accru d'effectifs à la station de police de Vallée-Pitou. Il aurait dû avoir 5 chiffres de 9 policiers, mais il n'y a pas suffisamment de policiers pour effectuer tous les shifts et surtout, il n'y a pas assez de policières. Bien sûr, tout cela handicape lourdement les policiers dans leurs tâches et souvent, ils ne peuvent pas quitter la station de police pour effectuer des patrouilles. Donc, à travers le député Prime Minister, j'aurais voulu que le Premier ministre soulève la question avec le commissaire de police, étant donné qu'il y a eu de nouveaux recrues au sein de la force policière, pour qu'un certain nombre de policiers soient transférés à la station de Vallée-Pitou. Merci.
Monsieur le Président, je puis assurer, Monsieur le député, que sa requête sera transmise au Premier ministre.
Anyone, any question? Thank you very much.